So hi there, welcome to lesson 5, module 6, where we're talking still about roster summaries and checking basically for consistencies. So we're now looking at the merging data sets. That's what we're using, and typically the merge command. That is the one we are really zeroing down on. But we have to work on some theories and see where we are built up until now. So in the last lesson, we were able to build an appending for this theoretically, where we're able to bring three people's data together to make 7 observations. So let's also remember that each of these students had their own database. So this is the database for the books, and this is the database for the students. And what is common to both tables, if you can pause the video for a while, just look at it. What is common to both tables? So I guess you have guessed right, is the PIDs. So we have PID 1, 2, and 3. So there are 3 students, remember them, and there are 7 books. That's B1 to P7, P1 to P3. So basically, I'm trying to talk Julia to connect. I'm trying to connect with, Julia's book to Julia, Mark to Mark's book, and then Chris to Chris's book. So we are going to be zeroing down on these PIDs because they're the real things, they're the real deal. Please remember what I've always said about ID variables. They could be one or they could be more than one. So please go back, watch the ID variables lecture, and hopefully you'll be able to get something there. So the goal right now is to be able to get, maybe for example, the gender of those who read the books or the names. So because the book section just basically just has a PID, you may want to know how many book does Julia have, how many book does Mark have, or which schools. So the goal is to bring the tables together, and I'm going to do it nice and slow. And do it in slow motion and backward. But please note the PIDs. So everywhere where we have P1 will inherit Julia female and S1. Everywhere we have P2 will inherit Mark male and S2. Everywhere we have P3 will inherit Chris male and S2. So that is the critical thing. So let's just pick a move now. Maybe too fast. So that's how it is. So nothing, no magic, no hanky panky, no, cost focus. We did it nice and slow. We brought the tables and made them one. All Julia's books are still there. She's P1, and now we have added her name, her gender, and her school. Now, when you do merging like this and there's a one-to-many relationships, the one side is usually duplicated. Julia's name appears 3 times here, Mark's twice, Chris twice, and so are their other attributes. That's what happens when you do a merge. Now we can split them back to their original forms, which was, all Julia's books, all Mark's books, all Chris' books. So no hanky panky, no magic or false magic here. So that's exactly how it works. We just merged. That's what we did. Nothing really changed. And that's our table for you. So let's take a minute to understand what merge does. So merge combines 2 data sets which usually have common variables. Note that using the basic entity relationship models which I have explained to you. We said there's one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many. So like I said, for append, after merge, we are likely to have more variables and observations. So remember, let's look at those 2 concepts we just mentioned. Now you can pause the video or go back one step. The number of observations for the pupil has increased sort of. It was 3 observations. By the time you do the merge, it becomes 7 because you are trying to merge the 3 into the 7. So that's one. Then there are two data sets. There's one for the students, there's one for the books. So basically, that's how it works. So let's look at the variables again. So we've talked about one to many. This is data set 1 for students. And now it's calling up data set 2 for books. And that's the one we call the one to many relationship. We've also done the one to one sometimes, depending, and then the many to many. So these are the ways you combine two data sets. The first data set that is in the memory to be combined with another data set that has a similar PID or group of PIDs outside of the memory. So remember one to many, many to many. So that's why we have this logic. So there are three basic syntax: the one to one syntax, many to one syntax, and many to many. Now, just please note, especially for the one in the middle, that it can swap. That means you can be joining the master side can be one and the using side can be many. Or the master side can be many and the using side can be one. One to many. So it can swap. That means I can bring the books, load it into my data set, then merge it using the variables. So all this will practicalize. So I'm sure it will get clearer. So that's why I had those two examples in the middle, one to many or many to one. So that's how the syntax looks like. So when we take the practicals, I'm sure you would get more understanding of this. So we're taking merge command as a very, very, very minimal rate, but we will definitely up our game in lesson 6, where we will talk about deeper things about merge. We're not yet done with merge, but let's go first and put to practice the few things we have learned here using this data and the do files so far. So I'll see you in the practical session. So, okay, there, welcome to the practical session for merge. We'll just take, uh, what's the word now, a few steps deeper here. We'll just take it just not too much. We'll take then in the next practicals, because we have two versions for merge. We have merge part 1 and part 2. And the whole idea is just to make sure that we can build some kind of understanding in a way that will be what's the word will be very very will not be overwhelming to you. I think that's the word. So we want to just take it nice and slow. That's what we will do. So in the initial practicals for append, which is the lesson before now, if you have not watched it, please just try and trace lesson 5, go back to the playlist if you're watching from the playlist and watch lesson 5 for append. It's just how to combine data sets. That's what we are doing here, and how they affect us in our journey for completeness. So we're just building theory still. We have not even used it as a measure for checking completeness. So without wasting so much time, in this particular lesson, we'll take off from where we stopped for append. We had, if you remember very well in the last lesson, we had the cis-use BP wide, where he talked about some blood pressures for some patients, and we had them all listed here. That's what we have all listed here. So what we had done in the previous class is just to split them into 6 groups. We also asked you to please split them into 10 groups and let us know what you think. And when we are done, we brought them together and we had a data set with 6 variables, even though we started with 5 variables, and we explained all that in that video. So we have BP long. We have been using BP wide. Now, the challenge with the BP long data is this. They want us to match BP wide or merge. Let me use the word BP wide into BP long. And why is that? BP wide has the groups. BP long does not have any group, and I'll show you now. So use BP long by default, there's no group, comma clear, clear. Yep. Let's run now. If you look at it, it just shows us the age group, the when, the before and the after of the BP, but there is no group. And it has 5 observations also. So these are 5 observations: patient, sex, age group, blah blah blah. So there is nothing one can do here except to get the information from BP wide. BP wide tells me which group patient 1 belongs to, patient 2 belongs to, patient 3 belongs to, and patient 41 belongs to. So that's BP wide, has that information. But you can pull it into this data set, and that's all we want to do. Now, for us to do that, the final appended set that we had here has to be saved. So I will call this save, and remember the default folder is module 6. So we are still on module 6. So the current folder is module 6. So we'll say save BP wide, and you can call this appended, comma save. That is the one that has the group numbers and all the details that we now want in this particular data set. Now, when you have done that, you now have to look for the ID variables. The ID variables that match. So sometimes they may not be ID variables, but they are variables that are unique on one side, or a group of variables that are unique. I'd mentioned that in detail, I believe, when we're talking about duplicates. So ID variables are key. So, and the ID variable here, which we had done, is ID with, when we were looking at duplicate or duplicate tag, is the patient ID. But this one is on the many side. That means patient in the wide data occurs only once. So let's go there. And that's why we have 1 to 120. Let me just run those lines. So we have 1 to 120 listed. So 1 occurs once, 12 occurs once, 11 occurs once. But when you go to the long version, sorry, yes, I think I'm done. Let's find out why it's not running. It should run beyond this. Oh, sorry, I said save. BP wide appended, comma save. It should be comma replace. So it says option save not allowed. So I hope you are learning from the errors as they happen, and I'm glad they happen this way. So you don't just think it's a perfect world for Stata. You may have challenges here and there, and understanding why is very critical. In module 10, we will share that. So please don't forget to subscribe, so when the video comes out, you'll see it. In module 10, we are talking about errors. Why, the science of errors and the systems behind errors. So you have a better understanding of why you keep seeing red, red, red in your work. Now, enough of the digression. Let's get back to our main matter today. We're talking about use BP long. So let's go back now. So you see BP long now has two ones, two twos, two threes, two fours, 2 5. And basically it's because for each of that, for the same patient, they are getting what's the word? The BP before and the BP after. So that's what they are basically doing. Okay, let's move. We move. So how do we get the groups that are already here in this file to here? So we merge. We say merge. And now, because the current file in memory has 2 ones, it's on the many side. We have done this a lot, One student reads several books. One school has several students. So the BP long that is in memory is the many side. So I'm merging many one. That's the syntax we just did some few minutes ago. Merge m many to one, and then you specify the variable you are using. Patient is what connects this data set with this data set. Patient using, now you have to be sure that you are quoting the right folder. So I will do this because sometimes the folder that you want to merge with is in a different folder. So the folder of the using file is the one you select after you have opened your file. So there could be another CD at 59 because we're using a system file. So using, and then we now define BP wide appended. Now there are options there that help us. One of them is keep using. It only keeps the variable we need. The only variable we need is group. That this other variable has age group, has sex, so there's no need to bring that into our data set. Now, when we do a masterclass on merge, masterclass on append, we'll tell you some deeper secrets and other things you can tweak to make it look interesting. But for now, let's keep it simple. So we only need group. Remember, we want to pull group from here and pull it into long. As I'm saying now, right in front of me, there's no group here. So we don't know which groups this ones belong to. So I will type group and then run. Now when we run here, two extra variables will be created. And that is going to be discussed in detail in part 2 of the tutorial because we just talked about merging. But what you can see clearly is that anybody from 1 to 20 here, let's go down to 20, which is like 40 here. 1 to 20 here is in group A. Sorry, is it group B now? Sorry, I went to 40. Sorry, 1 to 20. Yeah, where is 20? 20. Yeah, this is where my 20 ends. They're in group A, and the next group immediately after that is group B. So that's group B just immediately after it is group B. So 21 to 40. So I've been able to bring it in. And then it looks like this. The results look like this in the screen. So it has merged perfectly. That means for every patient in appended, we found a corresponding patient in BP long. So that is how this works. That is how it basically works. So I hope you have learned something, and I really want to see you in the next lesson, and hopefully we'll take it up from there. We'll tweak a few things, and then we'll be able to build up on merge because it's not always perfect. That's the basic thing we want to show you in the next lesson. So listen to the next tutorial on merge. That's lesson, I believe, lesson 6. Listen to it carefully, and then we'll be back again to continue this tutorial. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.